The story of the rich man and Lazarus really bothers me. First, because when I was in the seminary, I had to take a test to show that I knew Latin, and this was the passage. I had to translate it from Latin to English, so whenever I hear this proclaimed, it gives me nightmares of those days in the seminaries of Latin, which, by the way, Father Butner now knows the pain of as he's studying canon law. He also has to learn Latin in this way, and so at dinner, it forces us to go back to conjugations and cases and all that sort of stuff, so a lot of fun you can imagine for us now at dinner time. But more importantly, the story of the rich man and Lazarus really bothers me because each time I read it or I hear it proclaimed, it challenges me to greater awareness. Now, those of you who know me know that I'm probably over-aware, if anything. So I'm all the more concerned that somehow, in some way, I'm missing Lazarus at my door, whoever that may be. So let's take a closer look at what's going on in this powerful parable. We begin with the haunting words, actually, of our first reading from the prophet Amos. Amos said, "Woe to the complacent in Zion." At this point in salvation history, God's chosen people are divided. They should be one, united, but they're divided. You have two kingdoms. You have the kingdom in the north with 10 tribes, and you have the kingdom in the south with 2 tribes. The 10 tribes in the north are suffering. They are facing their enemies on every side. There's instability politically. There's great poverty and so on. The 2 tribes in the south, however, are living it up. The opposite. They have stability, strong economy. Outwardly, there's a lot of wealth. People are very rich. You heard one of the images in that first reading. They're drinking wine from bowls, right? All this wine in these bowls. They're just having a great time. Outwardly, there's a lot of wealth, but their society begins to rot from within. And in fact, they're the first that will be taken into exile as the story goes on with Amos. And the south, the problem is they're ignoring the suffering of their brothers and sisters in the north. While they are having prosperity and wealth, they ignore the oppression and the poor of those they're supposed to be united with in the north. So, to the tribes of the south, Amos cries out, "Woe to the complacent." And complacent is a key for us here today to understand the parable we heard in the gospel. So let's take a minute. When we think of the word complacent, we should think of indifference. When we remain blissfully unaware about those suffering. We should think of routine. We go through the motions, but we don't go any deeper. We don't engage in anything. We should think of silence. We don't address the issues that we maybe do see. And when we think of complacent, we should think of comfortableness. So the idea that we're concerned with our own entertainment and our own convenience above all. We should think of being neglectful, ignoring the needs of others that we do see, or apathetic. We see the needs, we're not only neglectful, we don't even care. We have no concern about them. Woe to the complacent. With these haunting words in mind, the parable of the rich man and Lazarus should bother all of us here. Because the poor man Lazarus was lying at the door of the rich man, but the rich man was complacent, all those things. He was indifferent to Lazarus' suffering. He went about his own routine. He ignored him. He remained silent about his condition. He was more concerned about his own being comfortable. He was neglectful of Lazarus' needs, and he was apathetic about his hunger and thirst. He didn't care. What happened when they both died? We're told Lazarus went to heaven, to the bosom of Abraham, and the rich man went to a place of suffering. And from that place of suffering, ironically, the rich man still doesn't get it because he's trying to give the orders. He says to Abraham in heaven with Lazarus, "Oh, go tell Lazarus to come over here down to this place of suffering and ease my suffering." Trying to command Lazarus as if he were his slave now in the afterlife. Can you imagine? Talk about needing purification. Thank God for purgatory. Woe to the complacent. What about you and me? Are we complacent about certain people or things? And this is something that is, I would say, an epidemic now in our own society and culture. So many people are going through life just in a blah sort of state. They're just unaware blissfully. They don't care. They're focused on themselves. So think about a few things. Our parish, for example, we are so blessed. We have a wonderful food pantry, open twice a week, amazing volunteers there. We feed the hungry, and that's great. But do we know who they are? Now, our volunteers do. They're amazing. But do we know who they are? Our parish has a thrift shop. Again, amazing volunteers, open twice a week. We help clothe the naked, so to speak. That's great. But do we know what else they need besides what we offer there? At home, think about a husband or a wife who takes care of all the needs of the children or grandchildren, and that's wonderful. But what about the other spouse who's just there along for the ride, not participating in the life of the family? At school, when we help friends with homework or sports or whatever, that's awesome. But what about the classmates who have no friends? At work, when we do what we're supposed to do, that's a good start. And in today's day and age, if you're an employer, you're golden if you can get your employees to do what they're supposed to do. But what about when the boss needs us to give our very best, to go above and beyond for something, even if we don't feel it or care about it? Woe to the complacent. Who is Lazarus at our door right now? And what is stopping us from being aware of who that is and doing something about it? Sometimes it's fear. We're afraid to act. Sometimes it's pride. Sometimes we think we're too busy, or there's a reluctance to doing something that makes us feel uncomfortable. We don't like that feeling. Sometimes we don't know what to do. Sometimes we don't want to do it. Whatever it is, today's gospel tells us we should ask God to help us figure it out and then do something about it. Ask Him to help us to fix it. Otherwise, the words of the prophet Amos are directed to us personally. Woe to the complacent. And the fate of the rich man may become our very own. The good news is, at the Eucharist we're about to offer and receive, we receive the grace of God that opens our hearts more and more each time we receive the Lord. And it opens our hearts to His love and mercy so that we can love and care for others as God loves and cares for us. So after we offer and receive the Lord today, let's commit to taking a moment or some time in prayer this week and ask Him to help us to notice someone and to do something about it.